mark. Action!
I was a wrestler in high school, and then I boxed for a little bit and did a little bit of Kung Fu, and then I got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu about 5 years ago. Jiu Jitsu doesn't make you punch-proof. What it does is it gives you the opportunity, potentially, at the last moment to turn the fight around. So that's what this movie's about.
That's one of the beautiful things about this sport, is people who get anywhere near it become so passionate about it. Look at Mammoth.
I heard he's really good. I heard that he's really strong, and I think he has purple belt, I think, in Jiu-Jitsu, and that's pretty good. You got a purple belt, you're good.
He's terrifying. He gets a look in his eye like he's not around, you know, and then he just goes for it.
I was asking for advice on a cross-collar choke from Jean-Jacques Machado. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and I realized there's 100 people standing around trying to make a movie.
He'd just be having sort of a private class, you know, and we'd be like, can we...
I started doing jiu-jitsu. I moved to Los Angeles about five years ago, and started studying with this wonderful Brazilian teacher, and met all the guys who he grew up with in Sao Paulo. And it turned out that these were the families of the Gracies and the Machados who revolutionized first jiu-jitsu and then were responsible for inventing the phenomenon of mixed martial arts.
After class, we talk about, let's put a movie together, let's do some movie about jiu-jitsu, nobody never did. How we're gonna do this movie, how we're gonna bring some people involved. That's the way we start.
Jiu-jitsu is not just a fight, it's not just physical. It's very mental, it's very philosophical, spiritual, in a way that you have to set your mind and just be calm. It has to do with how calm you are, how, focused you are.
Am I supposed to meditate?
The meaning of Jiu-Jitsu in Japanese is the gentle art, the gentle way. So the thing about Jiu-Jitsu is it's a real deceiving art, because you don't look like you're doing anything to the person, but it's a lot of pain involved.
The technique is easy, simple. You can learn how to do a choke, how to do an armbar, but how do you armbar your anxiety? See, that's the highest level, when you turn your tools to work on yourself. Like, how do you choke your depression or your fears?
Good. You know the escape. You just got tired. What's the lesson? Don't get tired. Let the other guy get tired.
You've kind of used your opponent's energy against him. It's kind of a path of least resistance type of martial art.
The whole point is to develop awareness so you don't even need to fight. You walk away.
What have I learned personally through my practice of jiu-jitsu? I've learned many things. One of them, as I said, is you don't oppose force to force. Second thing is you conquer yourself, you conquer your opponent.
The jiu-jitsu is fun. The time you're in the mat, like you feel a little boy, so you start to play.
It's very tactical and technical, and it's also very physical. I often liken it to kinetic chess.
It's not about a medal or just the money prize. It's about your life.
Being able to sense whether somebody is letting you do something in order to get advantage somewhere else.
All the old moves, there's counters to them, so it's an ever-growing sport.
It's an art where you can be very old and still make it work for you. You can be very light, and that's what attracted me, because I watched Carlos one time wrestling with a person that was, and Carlos I think is 170, wrestling with a person who was well over 230. And controlling him on the ground.
Focuses more on the ground fighting, using your legs, your larger muscle groups, even for smaller combatants. It's very effective.
It's one of the last arts I took, and it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I really liked it. I'm 70 years old right now, and so I started taking it, and I think when I was 59.
A man was going to cut my throat.
Like this? Oh, no, there's a knife there. There's a knife there. Grab my arm. Drag it toward me. Toward me. Good.
It's one of the best self-defense games I've ever seen.
I mean, it's the best exercise in the world. It's the best philosophy in the world. Get to hang around with a lot of Brazilians.
In Rio, where I live, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, jiu-jitsu is very, very big. It's like a religion.
I hate to break the news to everyone, but jiu-jitsu is from Japan. So jiu-jitsu is an olden art that was formed to be a sport, and they created judo. But what happened with the jiu-jitsu was, because everyone was so focused on judo and it became an Olympic sport, jiu-jitsu became obsolete and it was put back in the shadows.
With the first wave of Japanese immigrants to Brazil in the early 1900s, the head of the Brazilian immigration was an ex-champion from Japan, a great master, Master Koma. He was a nobleman, Count Koma. And my uncle back then, Carlos Gracie, he was a young kid who started training for him.
The Brazilians, Helio Gracie in particular, years and years ago, took that style, and being a smaller combatant, he was a small guy, focused more on the situations that he found himself in as a smaller athlete, and which tended to be on the ground. He got overpowered, he got taken down a lot, but he learned and adapted technique and situations that fit that and made him very effective, and that was kind of where the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu kind of rolled out of that.
I mean, I thought it started in Brazil, but when I went back to Japan and I saw like a 300-year-old judo book, I saw all the moves that they had. It was like the Gracie moves. I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
You had the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, you had the karate fighter, the kung fu fighter, the judo fighter, and so forth. Today became like it's a mix.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
People go train a few punches, they train a few kicks. They call their style mixed martial arts.
Jiu-Jitsu is an element of mixed martial arts. It's, you know, if we have eight tools in our tool shed, and that's our mixed martial arts tool shed, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a huge tool in there. That's the hammer for many guys.
The Gracies, Rorion Gracie and his brother Royce, they had what they called house fights in Brazil a lot.
They would go to a Muay Thai place, or they would go to a karate studio, they'd go to a boxing gym, and they'd say, bring out your best guy and let him do whatever he wants, and they beat him using jiu-jitsu.
I think the Gracies originally approached these television guys and said, we have this concept, let's answer the age-old question, which fighting style is the best?
The original UFC was, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, you're a boxer, who would win?
This thing was called no holds barred.
You had to fight three men a night to be the champion. 3 fights in one night. So no gloves, no time limits.
Couldn't stick your fingers in somebody's eyes and you couldn't bite them. Those were the only 2 rules.
Royce came in, skinny, the small guy, and started choking everyone.
Boxing is all about striking. It's all about punching, you know. And you know, if there's a clinch, you know, the referee will break you up. You know, tell you to fight out of it, break you up. In jiu-jitsu, that's what they want. They want to clinch, and they'll stay there. They'll stay there for days.
Coming from a wrestling background, I looked at it and said, why are they on their back? I couldn't figure that out, and they're very effective on their back.
They put on their first event, and it was so successful that they did another and another and another. What they never realized is that they were creating a sport.
The lines into jiu-jitsu academies all over the world, especially here in North America, were pretty long. Everybody wanted to be Royce Gracie.
They created, from a garage in Torrance, California, mixed martial arts.
It becomes a true mixed sport where you have to learn all the different pieces to be a well-rounded fighter. If you neglect one of those areas, somebody's probably going to point that out to you in pretty quick fashion.
These guys have to know boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Not only do they need to know it, they need to be well versed in all of those different aspects of training. Plus, they still need to do their cardio training, their weight and strength training. There's no better conditioned athlete in the world than mixed martial artists.